If today's gospel story appeared in a newspaper, the headline might read, "Man receives sight, becomes true disciple." Our gospel author, Mark, was a creative storyteller. Like a modern-day investigative journalist, he tells us the where, when, who, and what of a story he's reporting some 25 to 30 years after the time of Jesus. Where does the story take place? On the road to Jericho, just 15 miles from Jerusalem. Jericho is linked in the minds of Bible readers to the story of Joshua leading the people into the promised land. Now Jesus is about to enter Jerusalem, where he will undergo his passion. When does the story take place? Besides being the last incident reported in Mark's narrative before Jesus enters Jerusalem, it's also the end of a symbolic part of the gospel on discipleship. Scholars point to stories of Jesus giving sight, which bookend this section, where Jesus' disciples misunderstand what it means to follow him. Who does Jesus meet on the road to Jericho? Bartimaeus, a blind beggar. A priest friend of mine once pointed out, as he said, that the name Bartimaeus in Aramaic may mean son of defilement. Perhaps Bartimaeus got that name because he was a blind beggar. At that time, some believed blindness was a punishment for sin. On the other hand, my friend noted that the name Bartimaeus in Greek means son of honor. Could Mark be telling us who, in God's sight, Bartimaeus was because of his response to Jesus? Of course, what happens between Bartimaeus and Jesus is the heart of the story. He addresses Jesus by a messianic title, Son of David. Then this beggar throws off his cloak, his old identity, his security, his possessions, and asks the master for his sight. And finally, Bartimaeus follows Jesus on the way to Jerusalem, the way of the cross. Now, investigative journalists pursue the details of a story, past or present, because they believe it has meaning for their readers. My favorite scripture scholar, Father Eugene Laverdiere, urges us to see today's gospel story as symbolic of every Christian's story. Bartimaeus, he says, had to deny himself and embrace the cross. With his sight restored, he could join the disciples and follow Christ to the passion and resurrection.